So moving on, it's Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame season.
Oh
The
boy.
votes, the ballots just opened up. You know what's going on this year. It's a big year. I did send out my Junkyard Dog column again. Got a lot of traction on it once again. So let's keep it going up. And hope.
That's good. That's not what I was sighing about. I was talking about some of the other discussions
Oh,
we've had.
oh, yeah. So there have been some changes for this year.
Okay.
And Dave calls it the deepest and most interesting ballot due to some of the new rules he's going to try to put in to make the process fairer. He does acknowledge that no system is going to be perfect. He basically says the new system is designed to make it so the number of votes in the category is based on the number of candidates. Previously, there would be a total limit on votes, which was 10 wrestlers and 5
Yeah.
others. And that was increased last year to account for all the tag teams
Tag
added.
teams.
What
Yep.
we're doing is having a different amount of maximum votes per category based on the number of candidates in each category.
Is that why I saw the goofy thing where like North America or modern U.S. Canada had like more people you can vote for than like Japan? Japan was like 3 or 5 or some shit like that, and then
Yes.
everything else. Okay. Okay.
So he basically talked about them having there are some log jams basically in U.S. and Canada, which is probably the strongest category last year. Is even deeper now. It has Sergeant Slaughter, Junkyard Dog, Tully Blanchard, and Arn Anderson. David Carey and Kevin Von Erich moved from modern to historical, and given what would call their Hall of Fame career resume was over by 1993. So all those people are going to historical.
Okay.
The other strength is U.S. and Canada, current wrestlers, people that have possibly made great strides since the last time they were on the ballot, Seth Rollins and Jon Moxley, or increase their legacy arguably in the last year, which is Roman Reigns.
Right.
The maximum people who can be voted in on each category is based on one vote for 3 candidates on the ballot, stemming from the
Okay.
latest baseball elections, which had 28 and 30 total candidates and a 10-vote max.
Okay.
So the rules still remain. If you can get 60% of the votes from your region, you're in. If you get less than 10%, you're off, unless there's a reason based on current performance or new history that will warrant another look. If you're off, you can be put back on in 2 years if those reasons exist. There's a 15-year max on the ballot unless you get 15% of the vote. That rule has kept Sergeant Slaughter on the ballot for years, who's been a top finisher but can never cross a 60%. Other people on the clock this year are Big Daddy, Kendo Nagasaki, and Jackie Palo, all from the UK. Big Daddy, your ass falling off the ballot, and I'm going to report to Josh Smith directly when it happens. So
I didn't know he was a Big Daddy voter or would be a Big Daddy voter. I've heard him talk about it because obviously not the drawing history or whatever else, but like people
oh,
are always saying like, yo, he was a horrible wrestler.
question from Nith Mang. Was TK taking shots at Regal with some of those tweets? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
the whole part when he's talking about like he's talking about like I was dealing with my mom and she was sick and whatever else and there was tampering going on. He was talking about 2 people. One in particular was Regal.
Yep. So like there is there's a lot of candidates here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but
Go through the main ones for U.S. Canada.
yeah, I'm gonna leave out the historical one. JYD, go ahead, vote it. The modern
Or
U.S. and
or
Canada.
go through any notable ones that for this show for the people that when we talk about them on the show or we've talked about them on the show.
Yeah.
I guess.
So like the modern U.S. and Canada, the candidates are Mark and Jay Briscoe, the Young Bucks, Edge, Bill Goldberg, Matt and Jeff Hardy, Becky Lynch, Moxley, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall as a tag team. Paul Orndorff, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Trish Stratus, and Rick and Scott Steiner.
Okay. How many people would you vote for on that list?
I would vote for, let's see. I would be a no on the Briscoes just because I don't have enough familiarity with them.
Fair enough.
Young Bucks, slam dunk, absolutely.
Yep.
Edge, no.
Yep.
Goldberg, yes.
I wouldn't vote for him, but he'd be in a maybe pile.
Yeah, I think I'll say yes on Goldberg. Matt and Jeff Hardy as a tag team. I'm gonna go no.
It'd be my maybe pile.
Becky Lynch, not yet, but she's making a great case.
Definitely a maybe pile, especially considering like what has happened with that division, and you look at around at like or U.S. women's, and you look at like she's one of the few bright spots we got.
Right.
Yeah.
John Moxley, absolutely. I would vote for him.
Yep. Yep. He's a lot for me.
Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. I'm gonna go no on
I'd
that.
put them in the Goldberg maybe pile.
Paul Orndorff, yes, I would go with.
Okay. I don't have an answer on Orndorff because I don't watch 80s wrestling like that.
Randy Orton, I'm in the maybe on that. I'm not a yes.
He's in my vote for him eventually, but not right now.
Seth Rollins, he is a no for me.
I'd vote for him eventually, but not right now.
CM Punk, I've been thinking about this for a while. I voted for him. I would have voted for him each of the last 2 years. Actually, every single previous year. And this is hard. This is hard, man. I feel like I gotta ding him this year.
You would have voted for him for how many years has he been on the ballot?
He's been on the ballot for a while, actually. Like
5 years, 6 years.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the exact number of years.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd vote for him. I would have voted for him last year.
I would have voted for him last year, and I think if it was just the press conference and the fight, I would have still voted for him. I think when we're talking about like positive historical significance, like I feel like getting fired from like the only real alternative, like after more fighting, after being this cancer, like this stuff has to be accounted for at least once. And yeah, I would not feel good about like calling him a positive historical contributor, or a positive historical significance.
I would. Pipe bomb don't happen. AEW never happens. So you say he tried to fuck it up or whatever. I'll say 2 years or 4 years down the line, but it never even gets to year one if not for him at being with either. So for me, that doesn't change like how I feel. Like you can say he's an asshole. He was an asshole a decade ago too. So yeah, I'd vote him in. And like there are plenty of people that have done a lot worse at an Observer Hall of Fame than try to fight somebody and try to fight a booker. So or whatever, try to put hands on a booker. So yeah, or get some backroom fights. I'm sorry.
What else we got? Roman Reigns.
He was a no for me. And that was before I read that. Before I read the article, who wrote that, by the way?
Case Lowe, the same guy that wrote the Young Bucks column.
Yeah. So is it Case or Casey?
Case Lowe.
Okay, so Case Lowe, he wrote this. Roman Reigns is not an Observer Hall of Famer right now, and a lot of the stuff is things that I was like, yeah, that's the reason why I wouldn't vote for him. There are some things that I think are a bit unfair to him, to Roman Reigns in his regard to like pulling up the match, his WrestleMania things, whatever. It's like, bro, do you want to do that with Hulk Hogan?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like that? That's not that doesn't make a Observer Hall of Famer. Whether or not like you the biggest show of the year, you had these great things and whatever. It is what it is. But that was a strike against him in his eyes. But like for me, it's just like if you're going to vote for him to be in based off the strength of his last 2 years or since 2021 or whatever else, okay. But don't you have to look at like what he was and when they were fucking him up left and right from 2014 to 2020? People aren't doing that. They're just saying like, well, he's the biggest thing.
He's here now.
He's the biggest thing now over the last 2 years. Like, cool. What about those first 7 years when it wasn't even his fault? It was Vince McMahon fucking him up left and right. So it's like, all right, what do you got? What do you got to show for it as far as the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, not pro wrestling, not Cauliflower Alley, the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. Like you go through their year by year voting for Flair Thez, for most outstanding, for best feud, for best on interviews, for most charismatic. You can end up in Wrestling Observer's eyes, you can almost tell the story of pro wrestling this decade without him, aside from the Shield stuff. Shield stuff included, yeah, you have to talk about him. Outside of that, you don't. And you can't say that about Moxley. You can't say that about even Rollins.
Yeah, I think with Roman, like, and one thing to look at is the Flair-Thez award shares, which I
Yep.
think tells a huge story, which basically accounts for top 10 finishes
Yep.
in however many years that you have to do it. Roman Reigns is number 49 all time when it
You know
comes.
who's around in that when you talk about that? Like,
I sure do.
You can give an example so people understand like exactly what we're talking about as far as a non-entity in these awards.
Okay, so the people that he's around, when it comes to number in the 40s here,
Yeah.
Bob Sapp, and this is all time or
Yeah.
whatever. This is not just this decade or whatever, right? Shingo Takagi, someone who's not in the Observer Hall of Fame.
A person who literally was in Dragon Gate until, 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Brock Lesnar is number 46. Yuji Nagata, number 45. And I think if you compare these people's pushes, I think Roman Reigns being number 49 all time is shambolic in that sense. And we're talking about the very top of this thing is like you're talking about Ric Flair, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kenta Kobashi, Kazuchika Okada, Mitsuharu Misawa, Kenny Omega, John Cena, Keiji Muto, Steve Austin.
Isn't he coming up soon?
Kenny Omega's number 7 on the list.
Yeah.
Or excuse me.
He's higher.
Yeah, he's actually number 6, but the way it's listed here is like it starts on the second cell. So Roman is actually number 48. Excuse me.
Okay. Now I remember looking at that sometime last year, because we were talking about like I think it was because it made me think because last year we were talking about Okada. Okada got in last year, 2 years ago.
Last year, actually, 2021, he got in.
Yeah. So it was 2 years ago. I looked at it for the first time, the award share stuff, because I'm always big into like looking at award share stuff for like so people get a proper understanding of how fucking cold Barry Bonds was, or how cold like Michael Jordan, LeBron was, like in Kareem. I will look at like MVP award share, so you can get an idea of like it's not just that these people won this award, 4 times or 5 times or 6 times or whatever else. Is that they like not only did they win it a certain number of times, is that like they finished top 3, top 4, top 5, top 6 a decade. Like that shows you the kind of dominance people have on display. So so for me, like when people talk, want to talk them stuff about like, Steph may the same number of rings as LeBron. I'm like, cool, bro. Like how many top 5 finish Steph got in MVP? How many? Oh, LeBron's finished top 2 more times than Steph's ever finished top 10. What do we are? You're doing the funny goofy thing. Okay, I get it. This ain't actual conversation we're actually having. Like let alone the part where it's like seeing him play in the finals all them times when the time when Steph was actually better than him in the final. Whatever. So that was the thing that like I was looking at. Like I remember saying to you, it's like we were talking about the MVP award share back then. I was like, bro, like this is the reason why like I say like think Okada is like, I think he's gonna be the greatest ever, or Omega is like one of the greatest ever. Is like look at their award share, and they've only especially someone like Omega, like he only really got on here in like 2016,
right?
And
it's just like started bro, started top 5, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, like
right. And think of the era he's in when there's a Bushi around and Naito around and Ishii around and Shingo comes in at certain points. Ospreay comes on. Like there's a really talented fucking era, and for someone like Moxley to come out of WWE and someone like Omega like to come out of DDT, go to New Japan and start doing this, it's really impressive that it kind of like. And also Shingo just comes out of comes into it comes from where they were, hops into the environment and just thrives in a way at a high level compared to the rest of the world. It's like this should be appreciated over the short amount of time that they've been here compared to someone like a Tanahashi, someone like a Naito, someone like an Okada, even given the age. Like it's really impressive. There's like they've already like
And I think for Roman,
they are like the Giannis's and the Jokic's. If you don't think they've been in the game long enough, they're not old money yet. It's like, no, they're already like top 25, top 20 ever. You just don't really recognize that because like you don't like the way they wrestle because
like,
they don't wrestle like Ric Flair or Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart.
Like for Shingo Takagi to essentially come on to the radar in a serious Flair Thesz candidate in 2019 and already be above Roman Reigns all time, while Roman Reigns has been the top guy in WWE essentially since 2015. Like, I think that says like,
yeah,
that tells a big story, especially when Jon Moxley's number 27 above The Rock.
Right now, especially now look, going through all this, there is absolutely, and I'm not disagreeing with this because there is some to this. There are, like, you look at those awards or whatever else, there is a great degree of people hating his push and wanting to, in the awards, reflect their disgust for his push, right? I'm not going to disagree with any of that because it's there. However, when you go through the year-by-year stuff, when we were watching the main roster every single week, covering on this show every single week up until like 2019, so it ain't like we've missed, we just fell off and never watched any of this. Like, we were there watching this stuff, from the time he got the rocket strap to him in that Rumble to, his comeback for WrestleMania 35. We saw all of that week to week. And you compare that to New Japan, or you compare that to from Wrestle Kingdom 9 to Kenny Omega leaving in New Japan and starting AEW. All of that stuff. It's like, okay, so I was there for all that stuff. And we saw all the NXT TakeOver stuff. We're not even going to get into what was happening in Joshi. We're not going to get into what happened in Ring of Honor. We're not going to get into what happened in WXW. We're not going to get into what happened in Mexico. You go through those year-by-year votes and you say, what were the best 10 to 5 matches of 2015 through 2019 or 20? How many of those matches are you going to say, honestly, were Roman Reigns matches? You would say, okay, let's go to 14 to give you even fair. So you would say some of those a couple of those Shield Wyatt matches. Okay, cool. The first Brock Lesnar Roman match, WrestleMania 31. Cool. What else would you say in a particular year would be, you want to say,
maybe you give him an AJ Styles match.
Yeah. One of those. The Roman,
but
the
even then, it's a 4.5 star match. And I'm just saying, there's a lot of 4.5 star matches like around the world,
right.
Especially in that time,
it's like a fringe match of the month contender.
Right.
Yeah. So, but if you say, okay, throw out, we cut off at 2020, but let's say at 2021. Oh, the last Daniel Bryan Roman match, the triple threat match for WrestleMania. They'll tack those on, even though we're outside that criteria we've been talking about. Okay, a couple of those matches should be top 10 for the year for the year in the world, if you want to say that, right? Or at least an honorable mention. None of them shits is top 5 best matches in a particular year worldwide. Then you go through, all right, what are his best feuds in his career? Okay, Strowman, the on and off stuff with Brock, the on and off stuff with Rollins, Shield versus Wyatt that only lasted for like 3 fucking weeks because they decided they wanted to have them beat the hell out of Kane and New Age Outlaws instead of having that fucking match at WrestleMania 30, dumbasses.
Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso.
Legit or actual one. Like,
Sami
AJ Styles,
Zayn.
right? Let's say AJ. Yeah. Throw that on there, right? And that was only 2 matches, I believe. So, all right. You want to compare that to like the best stuff we saw around the world? Like he was wrestling Samoa Joe in the summer 2018. And then he had the match with the 4-way with Strowman and Joe and Lesnar. All right, you want to compare that to stuff like in 2018, like, Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. Do you want to compare that to stuff like Kota Ibushi versus Tetsuya Naito? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to compare that to any of the stuff you saw in the B Block 2018
versus
G1?
Ibushi, Omega versus Ibushi.
Right. Right. It's like, nah, man, these things don't compare. Move back. You want to compare this, and you say you're always talking about this fucking Japanese wrestling, James. Okay. Do you want to compare it to Johnny Gargano versus Andrade Cien Almas or Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa from 2018?
Not allowed, James. That's
Do
that's
do you,
that that's that that's that NXT wrestling.
yeah, do you want to talk about any of the things Ricochet was doing in 2018? You'd be like, well, that don't count. It's the same fucking promotion. It's not even like, we're not even talking about like a different country or a different style. We're talking about WWE versus WWE. So like, and you can do that literally year to year to year in Roman's career from 2014 through 2020 until he came back. Was that SummerSlam 2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can do that whole thing. So it's like, cool.
I think we should mention this.
Yeah.
It's not that we're being unnecessarily hard on Roman. We have these questions about Roman Reigns that we have for other people, because I don't feel like all people's cases aren't the same. So right. I feel like Reigns presents, like, when you look at him, it's like, all right, if you were pushed this hard, right? If you were pushed this, like, basically they would not like change from the plan, anything. I better be getting something out of this. Like, as a fan, what do I get out of this? Like, what do we see? Like, all right, yeah, y'all just like the amount of WrestleMania main events. Like, I don't care. They pick people for that shit. Like, like, what does your resume say? Like, what does your performance say? Like, you know.
And I'm trying to be fair to him. Is like, look, they set him up for hella L's all throughout that whole 7-year run. But the production slash like the quality is what it is. Like, I understand that they set him for these L's. Therefore, I'm not holding it against him when I'm not voting for him. This is Vince McMahon's fucking fault for fucking this guy up. Like, don't get it twisted or misconstrued. Like, he's not an Observer Hall of Famer. It has little to do with Roman Reigns, Joe Anoa'i. It has to do with Vincent Kennedy McMahon fucking this guy up all them years. So, like, I'm just looking at him like, oh, bro, the promos, the stuff they had to do at the beginning to fuck him up, the part where they brought Daniel Bryan back fucked him up, the part where they moved, they were about to make Cena and Bryan the mid card champions or the tertiary champions, whatever you call them, so he could be the top guy or whatever else. Like, all of that
like
stuff,
a year too early.
Right, all that injury stuff. And then there's also like another part when they talk about like his superstar status. Like, all right, let's go back to when John Cena basically more or less hung it up in 2018, and you want to go into your Google search history, all right, and go through that and check the popularity of WWE from 2018 when John Cena hung that shit the fuck up until like the last 2 years. It went fucking down. He was the guy on top. That's Vince's fault, but like, that doesn't mean because Vince fucked up, that I'm going to make him an Observer Hall of Famer. It's a different criteria. It's not a WWE Hall of Fame. It's not a Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. It's a Nerds Dork Analytics Hall of Fame, Historian Hall of Fame. Like, Sting took forever for Sting to get in. Luger ain't in. Kind of the same problem. Guys that look in it can be carried and can be superstars to a generation of people that like don't know no better necessarily or have a short reference of what they're looking at, but like over and over, people around them fuck them up. I don't hold it against Sting that Sting wasn't Observer Hall of Fame for years when he should have been, because, you know, Hogan said that's not gonna work for me, brother, and motherfucker fucked the finish over a tan. No, they fucked it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. There's plenty of guys, like Roman's not the first guy and won't be the last guy that gets looked at and says, we're pushing this guy no matter what, and then it doesn't work the way they expect it to. It finally did, thank God. But what we've gotten has been these last 2 years and change, but doesn't mean that like these years before never happened. They did. They fucking count too.
They count. And I think it's quite lazy to hand wave it and say he's the biggest guy in the business right now. I'm like, all right. Like, you know, like, what if this shit like stops working? Like, like what if people decide they open their eyes one day, James, and they realize, hey man, just like at SummerSlam this year, like that shit ain't work. Like, like the money's the money.
Talking about the Jay shit.
Yeah, the Jay Uso shit. I'm like,
That's another part about it is like they talk about like, well, look how well they've done the last, year and change. Like, yeah, because he's been presented as a top guy for so long, and then two fucking guys that were gigantic heroes came on the scene that looked like they could topple the guy, and people were interested in seeing him being toppled. That's how pro wrestling has always worked. And normally those guys get the belt and then you run with them for a certain amount of time. They didn't do none of that.
This is worse than Hollywood Hogan. At least Hogan lost the shit. Like,
well,
what the fuck?
Yeah, but my point for Roman is like, Roman got this shit to a certain level. There was people that were actual threats. People saw as could be threats to actually do it, like whether it was Sammy or Cody, and it took the fuck off. That would be, I would say that is a feather in the cap to Roman Reigns, that like he can be presented at this level and people buy him to where like they want to see him get beat so bad that they're willing to invest in that, right? But once you beat the challengers, it goes right back down into the shits, and then you get it with the Jey Uso shit, and now Jay's not even on the same fucking show. So like you gotta be like there's credit to be given to Roman for this last year and a half, absolutely.
Like I'm still in,
but
I'm not saying
pretend like he's John fucking Cena. Like, I'm not doing it.
Like I'm not saying I'm committed to voting no forever on him.
Same.
Right?
Same.
Like I think it would take an act of God for me to vote for Seth Rollins, right?
And I personally think, and I've said this to you, I think Seth's case is a lot better than Roman's.
Mm-hmm.
A lot better, because the three criteria is normally like is influence on the business and the wrestlers, work rate, and then program / talking, all the other stuff. And it's like historically Roman or Seth has the better matches, consistently has the better matches, more memorable matches, and he has the better feuds historically. So I'm like, I understand that one was pushed at the as to be the A guy, and one was going to be like the Roman is Cena is meant to be Cena, and Seth is meant to be Orton. But it's like, this is like if Orton was actually like gave a fuck and was good all the goddamn time to a certain level, So it's like I look at Seth and like I understand he's corny, he's a dork, and a lot of people do not like him behind the scenes, and he got a whole the established guy said he's got to carry the torch for him, whatever else, or not talk bad on him or whatever else. It is what it is. But like the dude has a body of work that is impressive for a WWE in-ring talent. Is he Shawn Michaels? Fuck no. Is he Bret Hart? Fuck no. Is he Johnny Gargano? Fuck no. Is he Gunther Walter? Fuck no. Nah, I'm not saying that. But like, you look at his decade, it's pretty impressive given what the actual top cream of the crop is in ring in WWE historically is. He is one of the best ever. Does he have match of year contenders? No, but he keeps going out there and clock and keep giving you those 3 3/4 to 3 to 4 1/4 like clockwork, barring something really stupid happening to stop him from doing it. So yeah, I would vote for. I'd be more likely to vote for him than Roman at this point. But they're not those forever for me. Something can change.
I would be willing to review Roman in the future, depending on how this all ends up. Like with this huge title reign, we can look back at it and historically contextualize it. I think he's still making his case personally.
Yeah.
Like, and I know people will be like, start grabbing their pearls and think we're insane and everything, but nah, man. Like there was a lot of failure that happened on that guy's watch.
Yep.
And
also,
I don't think we should just wash it away at the first sign of like, oh, we can throw our pom poms now.
Like he's kind of like the first round draft pick that's basically showed up on a different team, and now he's playing like a Pro Bowler. And it's like we supposed to pretend like the first few years didn't happen, right? It's like, come on now, those happen. So also another part about the Jeslo column, the part that I thought was unfair to him in the wrong way. Like he was talking about like the influence on the business and saying like if this the bloodline shit is not a good influence because look at what's happening to my precious AEW, and AEW is now going the way of the storytelling MJF, Adam Cole soap opera of bromance and the whodunit thing. And I'm like, that's not a good point for you, seeing that that's their highest rated segments now. I know you don't like it. I don't like it. However, it's doing the best business for them. So to say that like it's a negative while it's actually in fact financially a positive for them actually is like you're too caught in the trees to get off your spew and venom about Roman Reigns. Sorry. But there were parts that I was like, yep, and other parts like no in that column. And that one was like, nah, man, you going to you like you should have left that whole 2 paragraphs out or 3 paragraphs, whatever it was, out.
Got Trish Stratus. No.
Yeah.
And Rick and Scott Steiner. As a tag team, I'd be willing to consider it.
All those most of those tag teams, I would actually consider it as tag teams, like the Nash and Hall, the them. There was what was the other team? The Hardys. I would consider them. But like maybe it's the thing where like I'm not judging them as a tag team act compared to the way that the standard I judge singles acts. And that I don't know if that's unfair or not. I don't know what historical legacy is for Hall of Fame tag teams in the Observer newsletter to be like.
I think I'll just be safe and only vote for the Bucks this year.
The Army. Not everybody's going to be like, Manami Toyota and Toshi Yamada, right? So yeah,
I'm gonna stay safe and just vote for the Bucks this year and worry about the other tag teams another time. With my non-existent vote. Right. Japan has a 3 vote maximum here, so the candidates are the Beauty Pair, Shima, Satoshi Kojima, and Tenzan as a tag team, Yoshiaki Fujiwara, Hayabusa, Antonio Inoki, and Seiki Sakaguchi, Tomohiro Ishii, Meiko Satomura, Shingo Takagi, and Manami Toyota and Toshio Yamada as a tag team. No, I think I'm going with Tomohiro Ishii, Shingo Takagi, and Shima.
I don't know how to vote on that one because I'm favoring the tag teams more as far as
Inoki is on as a tag,
right?
Nethmang.
Yeah. I have a hard time not voting for Beauty Pair immediately, just because of their historical significance and also the amount of butts they put in seats. So that but like I can't tell you how good like Maki Ueda or Jackie Sato were as wrestlers. I can't tell you. Can't speak on it. But like I don't know, man. I don't know. Like and that one's gonna be tough because like 3 is that's really hard to that's gonna be a lot of people.
That's tough.
That's real tough.
Like they let Naito in now, and it's almost like, all right, I think it's gonna be a couple years before some new like people get on. So it's like this is the time, Tomohiro Ishii, try to run to the podium, run to the podium.
What
Ishii.
does his percentage look like last year?
I think he was in the 40s, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
I'll have to look.
That sounds more optimistic than I was expecting.
Yeah, I have to look.
I was expecting something like he's in the 30s or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just go with Shima. I'll say why, and I think when we talk about influence, I find it hard to point to many more influential guys and historically significant guys than Shima, with all the people that he's kind of influenced in his career, and like the style and the trios, and basically like I think when we talk about people's styles winning, like you gotta name Shima there. And with Ishii and Shingo,
they're two of the weirdest wrestlers in ring performers I've ever seen in my life.
Just like when Dave says when someone is so strong in one category it's overwhelming, these guys are the walking definitions of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's
like I've said this to you before. I think Ishii might be the greatest mid card in ring performer ever. Like, it's not a person that gets main events. This person is so you got 13, 12, 10 minutes to go out there and he's giving you some of the greatest matches you've ever seen in 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yeah. So there's some other categories, but that was pretty much there's
I'm not gonna pretend to know what the fuck's going on with the UK.
Or Mexico. I don't really know too much on that side. So
nope. If I know their name, they should be on. That's how it goes. If I know their name, they should be in.
There's a non-wrestler
category. What do you mean Blue Panther ain't in?
Run it up. What the fuck is Negro Casas? Like
got to see 1, 2, 3, and all 4 of the Villanos in that motherfucker. Oh man!
What you mean Conan ain't there? What's going on?
You want to talk about a draw? What about K-Dog?
You know,
influence. That motherfucker said, "Hey, that little kid over there, put him in. That kid's gonna be Rey Mysterio Jr." That's influence.
You know,
he changed the whole trajectory of the sport.
You know, Mil Mascaras, he got to be in there.
You'd be like, bro, you could be like, "Hey, Conan is a branch rigging for size in wrestling."
Wow. Oh man. Yeah, but yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Yeah, that's great.
This segment turned out so much better than I was expecting it. It really did.